These are the 22 books that I read in the first quarter of 2024, and I want to talk about them. Gonna keep these here for now. Hopefully this does not fall over on me. Now that we are somehow already in April, I wanted to do a quarter one wrap up for 2024, which sounds so like professional. I feel like I'm at work and I'm doing a presentation. Like, thank you all for joining me. Today I'm gonna be going over the results for Q1 of 2024. Let's get started. Hopefully this is much more interesting than it sounds like, but I do actually want to talk about a bunch of stats that I kind of pulled because I feel like that is even more fun than just talking about the books. I do want to go through every single book I read, but I'm just going to say probably a sentence or two about each one. I don't really want to get into them or talk about the synopsis. I feel like the more fun part is to look at the numbers, kind of see how I'm doing compared to, I guess, my yearly goal, see how I'm doing with different genres, different series, how my ratings are going this year, that sort of thing. So I actually have planned out the different things in my book journal. I don't really have a ton of numbers or anything, but I have enough. So let's just get started. Like I already said, I read 22 books in the first quarter. 2 of those were general fiction, 3 romances, 9 fantasies, 2 science fiction, and 3 mystery thrillers. At the beginning of the year, I made a list of 24 books that I wanted to read in 2024, and so far I have read 9 of those. So shockingly, I'm ahead of schedule on that one because that is about 37.5% of the 24 books, which I am really shocked that I'm ahead on that one. I feel like I have some hard-hitting books that are left on the list, so I don't know if I'm gonna make as quick of progress, say, in this quarter, but we'll just have to see. The books that I have left on that list are The Nightingale, which I'm so terrified of, Magnolia Parks, One for My Enemy, Iron Flame, Renegades, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, These Violent Delights, Shadow and Bone, The 7-Year Slip, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Legendborn, Crying in H Mart, A Darker Shade of Magic, Babel, and The Prison Healer. A lot of first books in a series and a lot of books that I'm just kind of intimidated by, so I feel like I kind of picked out the easy ones so far. So we'll see how I do for the rest of the year, but I definitely do want to finish all of those by the end of the year. I would love to complete that. Looking at my yearly goal, I set my Goodreads goal at 80 books for the year, and I read 22, which is 27.5%. So a little bit ahead of schedule, but not by much, but I'm just glad that I am on track for that. Honestly, I started the year off really strong, but in March, I didn't read a whole lot, and I feel like I am slowing down my pace, which is scaring me a little bit because it's not about the numbers, but I just have so many books that I want to read, and I wish that I could read faster. Everyone wishes they could read faster. So seeing that I read 9 books in one month and then I struggled to hit 5 books in the other month is scaring me. Adding up those 22 books, I read a total of 8,136 pages. Now let's take a look at my TBR because that is probably the scariest part of this whole thing. We're talking about my physical TBR, by the way, so any books that I own a physical copy of but haven't read yet. Spoiler, I have a lot. When I was writing all this down and paying attention, I was baffled. It's honestly really embarrassing. At the start of 2024, I had 132 books on my physical TBR, which I know is crazy. I would say hear me out, but I have no excuse as to why, so we're just gonna move past that because don't worry, it gets worse. I read 22 and I unhauled 5 that I decided I just never wanted to read, but I bought 26. In 3 months, I bought 26 books. How is that possible? I bought 14 in January, which I remember I went to Half Price Books and I went a little bit crazy, but still, just because it's Half Price Books does not mean I'm allowed to be buying 14 books in 1 month. 5 in February, and 7 in March. And I had the audacity to sit here and talk to y'all and say, oh, I've curbed my spending, I'm doing so much better. No, I'm not. After the first 3 months of the year, I have only decreased the number of my physical TBR by 1. 1 book. That is so disappointing. What is wrong with me? Obviously, I love to buy books. I didn't realize that I bought so many. What can I say? Nothing good is gonna come out of that conversation, so let's just move on. Other than the broad goal of just decreasing my TBR, I also wanted to tackle a bunch of series this year. A huge chunk of my TBR is series that I'm in the middle of or series that I haven't even started yet. So I wanted to just read a bunch of books in series, whether it was starting new series or reading ones that I'm already in the middle of. Preferably the second option before I move on to new series. So far this year, I have started 8 new series, which I just don't even know how that's possible. What series did I start? Well, yeah, it's true. I did do that. So I have started 8 new ones. I've only finished 1 this year, and I have DNF'd 1. I decided I didn't want to finish the series. As of the end of March, that left me in the middle of 15 series, which is a lot, but it's not too bad. I feel like it could be worse. Okay, stick with me. These are our last stats. and that is the amount of stars that I've given out this year. Thankfully, I have had 0 1-stars or DNFs, 2 2-stars, 1 2.5 star, 4 3-stars, 2 3.5 stars, 10 4-stars, I love to give a 4-star, 3 4.5 stars, and no 5-stars. We are 1/4 of the way into the year and I have still not had a 5-star. Even now into April, I have still not had a 5-star. We're gonna get there someday. It hasn't happened yet, but that is okay. I have faith that it'll happen soon. All of that gives me an average star rating of 3.6. So not too bad, because a 3-star means I still enjoyed it, and as you saw, I gave a ton of 4 stars. Moving on from the stats, we can finally go into each of the books that I've read so far. I think I will give you my star rating and then just a quick thought about it. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the synopsis or anything because I have talked about all of these books so far. I haven't really talked about many of the March books yet, but I feel like they're all pretty popular and I will be talking about them sometime soon. And I don't want this video to last forever. So starting off with book number 1, which is Billy Summers by Stephen King. I gave this a 4-star. Just kidding, I gave it a 3.5. I was in between that and a 4. I kind of went back and forth. I really liked this, but I remember at some points I was feeling like it was definitely a little longer and it was just dragging out more than it had to, which is why it was a 3.5 and not higher. Then I started Spy Family, which is a manga, and I read volumes 1 and 2 back to back. I absolutely adore this. I think it is so silly, goofy, stupid, but in the best possible way, and I have given every volume of 4 stars that I've read so far. Then I read The Hobbit, which was a major disappointment for me. I gave this 2 stars. I found it to be so incredibly boring and just dull. I thought it was going to be a fun, whimsical story of adventure, and I just feel like for me, there was not enough happening, and I really hated that I didn't love it. I wanted to, but it wasn't for me, but I can see why people like this. It's just not to my taste. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is book 1 in the Mortal Instruments series, and technically it was a reread for me. I read it in middle school. This was a 4-star. It was the perfect book to get me out of a reading slump that The Hobbit put me in. I thought it was just so much fun. It was non-stop, super fast-paced, and I loved it. The Battle of the Labyrinth, which is book 4 in the Percy Jackson series. This was sadly just a 3-star for me. I read books 1 through 3 all back to back about a year ago, so I went a very long time between picking this one up and the other ones. And I feel like it really hurt my reading experience. I just wasn't really into it anymore, and I just wanted to finish the series. So it was just a 3-star. Red Rising. This was a 4.5 star. I really loved this. It was so close to being a 5-star. It just didn't give me the 5-star feelings. This is another book that was so fast-paced from the get-go. I feel like it just never let up until about the 3/4 mark. I feel like around there it got a little bit slow, which was another reason why it wasn't a 5-star for me. The Truth About Melody Brown by Lisa Jewell. This one is actually funny. I read this for a video where my mom picked it out for me, and I actually never posted that video. I just didn't like how it turned out. But in the video, she picked this out and we both were under the impression that it was a thriller. I thought that was all Lisa Jewell wrote, and it was in the thriller section. So even after reading the synopsis, I was like, okay, this sounds like a mystery thriller or whatever. So I went into it with that kind of mindset, and I was reading into a bunch of things being like, oh, this person must be a creep. Oh, whatever. Like I was trying to make it fit the mystery thriller genre, when in actuality it is just a general fiction about a woman who's had a really rough life, and it's meant to be more of like a sad, endearing story, I think, but I just totally ruined it by trying to make it a thriller. Because of that, I was pretty bored and I thought it was not a great mystery thriller until I got to about the 3/4 mark, and I was like, there's just no way that this is a thriller. Am I wrong? And I finally looked it up. So that was my bad, and I gave it a 2.5 stars because I just didn't have the best experience, but I don't feel like it's a horrible book. So that rating doesn't really reflect the writing or the book or anything. I don't know what I would have given it if I read it the way it was intended to, but for me, it wasn't great. Last book for January is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. This is the book that inspired the Blade Runner movies. This was really short, but I actually just couldn't get myself to read the physical book, so I found an audiobook and listened to it really quick in like a day or two. It was okay, it wasn't a bad book, but it's just not my preferred type of book, so it was a 3-star for me. First book for February is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this is another that was so close to a 5-star. It was a 4.5. The reason it wasn't a 5-star is, again, I just didn't get those 5-star feelings, and I feel like I just have to for it to be a 5-star. But this was phenomenal. I really loved it. I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid is an unexpected author that I love, and this made me really want to read more of her books because she's writing about tennis, which I never thought would interest me, but I loved it. Next, I read The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, which I actually read for a Scavenger Hunt Picks My Read video. So if you want to see my full thoughts, I have an entire video dedicated to this, and I hated it. While reading it, I was very confused and just kind of let down. And then after a day or two to think about it, I really didn't like this. And this is the one series that I decided to DNF. Which is sad because I was really looking forward to this, but it wasn't doing at all what I thought it was going to. I don't feel like it fulfilled what it promised. I gave it 2 stars, which sounds kind of generous now that I am talking so badly about it. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. This fulfilled what I usually want out of a mystery thriller. It was very bingeable and easy to read, but it wasn't the best thing ever. And it's also not my preferred subgenre, I guess, of a mystery thriller, so I gave it a 3.5. Spy Family Volume 3, I don't need to talk about this anymore. Like I said, I have given all the volumes I've read a 4-star so far. Then I continued the Mortal Instruments series with City of Ashes, and I really loved this. Not quite as much as the first one, but I think that's because I listened to it mostly on audiobook. And I love audiobooks, but I feel like I don't get as good of an experience for things, especially like a fantasy, that are more complex. So I liked it just a tiny bit less than the first one, but I still gave it a 4 stars. Then I read my first Abby Jimenez book, which is Part of Your World, and I absolutely loved this, a lot more than I think I expected to. Her writing was just so easy to read, and I did not want to put this book down. I really liked it, and I gave it a 4 star. Then I started the Chestnut Springs series with Flawless by Elsie Silver, and I also really enjoyed this. This was another 4-star romance. It didn't quite knock me out of the park like I thought that it might, but I think that the next few books are going to be even better, and I'm really going to love them. Okay, next book is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is book 2 in the ACOTAR series. I know I've basically said this twice already, but this is the closest that I got to a 5-star because this one actually gave me those 5-star feelings about the 20% mark, and then they just fell off. They disappeared, they never came back. And I was devastated because I thought I had my first 5-star, but I didn't. I mean, I guess I could have rated it that, but it didn't feel right. So I gave it a 4.5. I loved this one a lot more than the first one for many reasons, not just because of the romance, which I feel like is why this one is so popular. Like, that's what it's famous for. I liked the romance, but I just liked so many different things about it, and I feel like it is setting up book 3 to be my favorite. I think that one is going to be a smash hit. That was the end of February, so I read 9 in January, 8 in February, and then I have 5 in March. First up for March is The Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is another series that I started, and this was a 4-star. I had a ton of fun reading this, and I definitely want to continue, but I don't know that I would say I loved it. At least comparing it to A Court of Mist and Fury and some of the other books that I rated higher, I just definitely didn't have the same love or attachment to it that I did with those. Then I finally finished the Percy Jackson series with What's This? The Last Olympian, which was another 3-star. I kind of felt the exact same way about this one as I did the 4th book. Then I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, which is book 2 in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and this was, I think, was it a 3-star? Yeah, this was a 3-star. I feel like I had a fun time reading this. They are very entertaining books, but to me her books are super juvenile and unrealistic, which is fine. They are young adult and like they don't have to be realistic or anything, but that is a big reason I feel like why I don't connect with them so much. Also with this one, I just didn't really care about the whole mystery part, which is the essence of the book. Like, I didn't really care about finding out what happened to our character or who was involved. I was having a good time, but I definitely was not invested. Then I picked up The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, and I loved this book. This was a solid 4-star. I felt similarly as I did with Part of Your World because it was just very easy and bingeable, and I just had a really fun time reading. The last book that I read for March was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and this was another 4-star. I feel like we ended on a great note. I really loved this. It was very whimsical, lighthearted, heartwarming. Like, it was just doing everything I wanted it to do. I really loved this. As I'm saying that, I feel like my whole rating system is just whack because I'm over here gushing saying I love this book, but then it's in the same tier as ones where I gave 4 stars, but I said I didn't love them. So maybe I need to reevaluate things. I don't really know. I was between a 4 and a 4.5 for this one, so definitely on the higher end of a 4-star. But this was just very cute and I highly recommend. Okay, my angle is all messed up, but I totally forgot to say what my favorite books have been so far. Obviously, the 3 that I rated the highest are probably up there in my favorites, but I just wanted to point out really quick that I really don't feel like I have a favorite so far. These are the 5 that I would say stand out the most to me, which is Red Rising. I feel like, unfortunately, I don't ever think of this book, but when I look back and think about it, this was so good, and I do not know how I haven't started the second book in this series yet. It is Criminal. Part of Your World really just put me in a reading mood. I loved this, and I didn't realize when I finished it how much I really liked it, and I constantly kind of think back on it as one of my favorite books that I've read so far. Obviously, A Court of Mist and Fury. I already said this was the closest that I had to a 5-star, so I honestly don't feel like this stands out as my favorite so far, but it's definitely up there. Carrie Soto is back. This was just a masterpiece. And last is House in the Cerulean Sea. I feel like I have to up my rating maybe to a 4.5 because I really, really loved this. This was so sweet, and it was so cute. I really love a cozy fantasy, and I'm rethinking things. I really feel like I have to up this to a 4.5 now, which would really screw with a lot of things. I don't know. I think I might have to do it, which really just screws with all the ratings that I've had so far. All of my stats in the beginning, they're all messed up because I think this deserves a 4.5. Am I being too harsh with all my ratings? Like, should this just be a 5-star? Should I have a bunch of 5 stars in here instead? No, we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. This is gonna be a 4.5. I'm gonna end it here, but I just had to pop on here and tell you that those are my standouts for the year. That's everything. Those are all of the books that I read in the first quarter of 2024, which is crazy that I'm even saying that. Hopefully I didn't put people to sleep with all my numbers at the beginning. I hope that some people find it as interesting as I do. I think so far it's looking pretty good, and I'm very excited for the rest of the year. That's all for this video, which I feel like it was kind of a lot, so I should just stop talking and say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!